Welcome everybody to this week's Dissecting Design. We are going to be taking a look at Clive Barker's The Undying. And I figure in time for Halloween it's going to be kind of a trick or treat. This week we're doing the trick. Next week we're going to have a more of a fun, I guess, horror game to look at. But, like I said, this is Clive Barker's The Undying. One of my favorite... music's getting very epic as well. One of my favorite horror slash first person shooters that came out. Okay, music. Has to get all epic while I'm trying to give my speech, right? There we go. And Clive Barker's The Undying came out at a very strange time. It was 2001. This was as the first person shooter genre started to evolve more beyond just run and gun gameplay. That was popularized with the likes of Doom, Unreal, Quake, and the like. And Clive Barker's The Undying did a really good job of providing more of the adventure side to the first-person shooting. And I found the control scheme to be a lot more intuitive compared to what would come later, especially when it came to the first BioShock. Now, that of course doesn't mean that Clive Barker's Undying is perfect in any way, but it did do several things very different for its time that we can still learn from. So I'm going to jump into the game's first act, and we'll talk about the basic gameplay. Alright, welcome back. So Clive Barker's The Undying is obviously a first-person shooter. We are Patrick Galloway, who's come to help our good old friend Jeremiah Covenant as, well, things like this seem to be happening in his abode. And if you haven't guessed, Clive Barker's influence when it comes to the enemy designs are probably here. But as I was saying, the story is that his entire family is cursed, and he is the only living relative left, and it's up to us to figure out what the curse is and save the day. We're armed with a combination of melee and magical weapons, as well as spells. And we're able to switch between them relatively easily. And you'll see things as we go along. We also have a journal here that goes into lore, as well as remembering some of the things that's happening.
Stuck.
Let's see if we can find our friend Jeremiah. Are you here, Jeremiah? And again,
Patrick,
this is
you made
old
it. At your
school
service, Jeremiah.
2001 graphics
Sorry for
here.
the delay, but I've been abroad. What happened to you?
Doors are
It
very
seems
big
I've come under
and
the
people look
watchful
kind of
eye
odd.
of the Reaper, my friend. It's been
Look
a
at
long
that.
time, hasn't it?
But I'll pause here quickly just to go over the basics. So, the game itself is set up in a linear style, but the levels are still wide in terms of exploration. We do have a set path through the game, but I'm going to cut things here and we'll come back once combat begins. Alright, after that brief interlude, it's time for some combat. So Clive Barker's Undying gameplay, you can see at the bottom we have both health and magic. So the idea is that our magical stone here, that can't be good, also enhances our spells. Hey buddy. I'm sure that won't come back to hurt us. And we'll gain more spells over the course of playing the game. But let's see if we can hunt this guy down.
Stuck.
And there are secrets in this game, as well as a lot of exploration. Well, we only have one way to go, I suppose. Combat is on the fast side. And you'll see that once we start running into some of the enemies. Hello.
Can you describe what you can only see? As the bonds of flesh are broken, the world becomes apparent.
Okay then. And he's, of course, one of these siblings we'll be dealing with later on in the game. Again, the rooms are all designed to be gigantic. So we have health kits. And the idea, of course, is that we'll be able to switch between our inventory as we see fit. I'm sure that's not bad. There's a little jump scare for you folks.
Won't budge.
But until we get our hands on some actual magic, we can't do too much. Uh-oh. And there's the sister. Oh! I mentioned, enemies are, as I said, very fast, and they have the habit of jumping right at you. It is very easy to take massive damage in this game, compounded by the fact that this is old school first-person shooting, so health is only recovered by using static health points, or health packs. Uh-oh. We will eventually get a melee weapon, but it's not going to be probably for the scope of this video. Reload. Stop. Look at all that old, that 2001 violence. Now the enemies are not infinite. They come at select points. And each sibling essentially has their own menagerie of evil to deal with.
Jammed.
Now, while you won't see it just yet, if you look in the bottom right, you'll notice the spell I have selected and 2 dots above it.
Stuck.
The dots represent the spell's power. We'll find the ways to upgrade our spells later into this game. Whenever we hold our stone, however, this basically gives 1 extra point or 1 extra level to our respective spell. It's kind of a way of making it so that we could play this game as a spellcaster. That was a nice shot. If I do say so myself. I guess we should help him in a minute. And again, lots and lots of lore in this game. And look, a secret. So there, speak of the devil, this is the amplifier. When we use it, it will level up one of our spells. Or really the spell we have selected. And that is very important, because if you want to play this game as a spellcaster, you have to go for it. Come on, Jeremiah.
Won't budge.
See anything else over here?
Jammed.
So it's going to be time for another little cutscene. So I'll cut things here, and we'll talk more about the adventure aspects in our next part. Welcome back. So what happens in Clive Barker's Undying is that the game is split into various chapters as we go around and try and find the various siblings. In between the chapters, we are exploring the manor. Now, at this point in the game, I just got my first actual combat spell. That's the, looks like green bubbles in the bottom right. Now, as long as we're holding onto the stone, they're actually stronger, and our magic will regenerate, I think, a little bit faster.
Locked.
Now, we are trying to find our way to one of these siblings' rooms right now, and we're kind of given semi-free reign to explore.
Need a key.
And of course, having to find those damn keys. See anything over here? There's a lot to uncover in the manor.
Won't budge.
And again, we'll find secrets and more upgrades as time goes on, as well as more basic weapons. Alright. Oh. Someone else is walking around. Again, don't be expecting highly detailed models here.
Tell me what you know about Lisbeth.
Again, going to try and skip things so we can keep on track here. Ooh. And let me see. I'm going to have to... It's been a while, so I'm going to have to hopefully try and remember these controls. And again, if we wanted to, we could read all the lore as well. Look, there's us.
This house needs a priest.
And there's... if you heard that... The scry spell is more for lore. So that's what she really looks like now. And yes, we will be fighting her at some point in this game. I don't want to accidentally use my amplifier spell if I don't want to. Again, very important to find the health packs, because they are the only way we're going to be recovering our health outside of specific events. And there is a little bit of guesswork as we're trying to find where we're supposed to be going here. Uh-oh. We got trouble.
Help me!
But you are able to use both magic and your gun very effectively. And that is one of the things I really like about Clive Barker's Undying. It feels very intuitive, with left hand for main weapons, right hand for spells. It was one of the things that I felt the original BioShock messed up on. Uh-oh. Well, looks like we got trouble afoot. But as I was saying, in BioShock 1, one of the problems I had with the game was how combat worked. What they did was you had your two inventories. You had your main weapons and you had your plasmids. And the issue was you couldn't use them both at the same time. Instead, you had two completely different inventories of attacks. So to switch between them, sorry, it's hard to talk and shoot at the same time here. In order to switch between them, you had to hit a toggle button that switched between weapons and plasmids, and then you had to go through your inventory to do it. And it was just very unintuitive, and it felt like an unnecessary step. When I talked with Bill Gardner, who was on the team of BioShock, he mentioned how that was kind of like a end of production issue that they didn't have the time to fix, and it will have caused, and they didn't want to risk any bugs. In this game, it's very simple. I hit E, we can select all of our weapons. R, select all my spells. And again, I can use both attacks at any time. Now, buddy, are you okay? Ooh. I think this engine is very similar to what they use for American McGee's Alice as well. Of course, we're back in the main hall. Now, I'm sure that noise is only good news, right?
Stuck.
Anything in here? Oh, I hear something. Uh-oh. And of course, at this stage, if I was to use my ectoplasm, it would do more damage while I'm holding the stone. But let's see, they want me to look, so let's see what we got. Oh. Again, a very family-friendly game, right? As time goes on, the game will oh, hey. Yeah, it can be very hard to actually dodge these guys, unless you use your scrying stone to push them away. But as I was saying, as time goes on, new enemies are going to be introduced based on these siblings themselves, which I thought was a really nice touch.
Jammed.
Now, there is a famous painting in this game, or a famous scene that we should be coming up to. I hear you, but where? Oh. The other ones see me? Hey. We're getting some good old action shots, aren't we? I don't even think there's a reload button. Ah. So there's our key. Oh, what's going on here? Whenever the stone glows green, it means there's something to look at. Hello? Nope. Alright then.
Jammed.
We're going to be hearing that a whole
Jammed.
lot. But we'll keep our spell on. Ah, perfect. I know.
Need a key.
Uh-oh. She's very nice, isn't she? Yeah, there's no dodging in this game, so you have to be, or no actual dodge mechanic. You have to be very quick. And for some reason, I cannot reload my gun. And I'm not sure why. Let me see. Will this work? Yeah, so I'll just use a health kit just to show it off. Actually, almost pay just to do that. But this is the famous painting of the game. Look at them, all nice and happy. Well, let's see what they really look like. And there's some a preview of what's to come, basically, as we'll be dealing with each one of the siblings in their own respective area. That guy seems to be causing us nothing but trouble.
Won't budge.
And of course the game loads between the various sections.
Stuck.
Now we're going to be heading to the garden, I believe. Let's see, anything good in here for us? And what I will do, just to show it off, is I'm going to upgrade our spell. And now it's stage 2 or 3 with this. And as the spells level up, they'll start to get like a little different color and change to them. I believe at level 4 the ectoplasm turns red. And of course we get an exploding spell and a lot more. That's just a regular plate, that doesn't help us. That's an eerily sized kitchen, isn't it? I think that's just the same way.
Stuck.
There's the housemaid. And like I said, we don't pick the stuff up, we could get into a situation where we won't be able to really survive. Oh. So what I did there was use the stone's pushback power to knock them away. And that's essentially the main way of being able to keep these enemies at bay. Alright, there's the East Wing key.
Stuck.
Which I believe means we are heading back. And yeah, if you don't remember where certain things are, it is very easy to start just getting lost and wandering around.
Jammed.
Now, like I said, we're not going... Sorry about that. Like I said, we're not going to be getting far enough to seeing everything in the game, but I do want to talk briefly about what happens at one of the later points. We're eventually going to get our hands, like I said, on a melee weapon. And it's a powerful scythe that what it does... Oh, he's still reading books. It's essentially our super weapon. And it's designed to be the killer of these creatures. Here they come again. Don't they know when to quit?
Ah, here it is.
Oh. But because magic is infinite, it is the preferable way to kill most of these enemies, just to preserve our ammo.
The Great Hall of Paintings. There is the truth. image becomes reality. He will rise again. The ritual continues.
Yeah. And what is going to happen, I believe, is we're going to get into a little bit of some strangeness, or even stranger than what we've seen. Let me see. Yeah, again, I'm trying to skip the little cutscenes. Basically, our friend Patrick here has a rival who's in the manor, and he's basically like the evil version of us. Uh-oh. And what's very clever about the game is that there are no real transitions in terms of ending screens and levels. It's all just kept very much organically. Oh boy.
Stuck.
Oh look, they're on the ceiling. Oh, jeez. Backing up. The ultimate defense against evil. You know what isn't the ultimate defense against evil? Getting stuck in the freaking corner. Whew. There is no co-op to help us here. We are all alone fighting all these creatures. So we should be coming to where things get a little bit strange. I believe it's going to be in the next section. That is a unusually big room, isn't it? And the lore... Oh, I heard something. The lore of the game is really good. They just keep talking while I'm trying to talk here. Sometimes you'll hear just sounds, and other times you'll actually see things. Scrying also lets you see better in the dark. Jeez. Yeah, like I said, the game is definitely not fair in terms of throwing things at you. Nope, more health. Come on. And there's some dual wielding there for you folks. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I can see again. I just want to explore over here. But I'm going to cut things as we enter the, I guess, the special area. And we'll talk more about, I think, some of the issues with the game there. So I can't cut the video until I can actually kill this thing. There we go. Alright, I'll see you all in a second. Alright, welcome back. I think we'll wrap things up in like a part or two, but as you can see, we are definitely not in the manor anymore. And as the game goes on, more of the fantasy and horror elements do get introduced, including these lovely creatures, and enemies who are weak to specific kinds of spells or attacks. So these guys are particularly annoying, as they have a habit of sneaking up on you, and being very hard to hit sometimes. But again, this is one of those cases where magic really does pay off, as you can see. Now, in terms of problems with Clive Barker's The Undying, or Clive Barker's Undying, the game itself has a really good, first half of it, as you're busy exploring, collecting the weapons, and learning a lot of the lore as to what is going on. But as things progress, that tends to fade away in favor of just more action. And while the first-person shooting isn't horrible, it does make the game feel more generic. And the game also, as with a lot of action meets horror titles, has that issue in terms of the balance between the combat and the scare. Oh. Wee. But as I was saying, at the start of the game, you are relatively ill-prepared for these kinds of fights. And that's on purpose. You're supposed to be feeling scared by the fact that you're fighting all manner of evil. But by the end of the game, you are collecting guns and spells and upgrading all your stuff, and it becomes very hard for things to actually frighten you. And the later parts, the game kind of devolves into just corridors. In fact, 2 of the sibling fights that you'll run into, getting to them is just simply a linear corridor as you're trying to get around. Let's see if I can actually make this jump. Yay! And a lot of people also have things to say about the game's final fight. The last boss is one of the examples of the lackluster bosses in first-person shooters. It's very much just a puzzle fight. You're just trying to figure out how the heck you're supposed to hurt him. And then the whole thing becomes repeat the same attack over and over again.
I'll show you real magic.
Oh, there's our rival. Oh. Oh. Yeah, as you can see, the game can get a little bit unfair like that. I'm going to try just speedrunning this. And this is also back in the days without autosave, so you better quick save or you're going to be in trouble. In fact, I should probably see what those controls are for quick save, because that could help out here in terms of saving us some time. There it is, F6, F7. There. That will help. Later. Alright, let's try this again, shall we? You pretty much have to hit this guy as fast as you can before those explosions do you in. Some of the environment to avoid him. Wait, where are you going, buddy? But the bosses are... The sibling fights aren't too bad. I think he left. But these guys with their ability to track are just annoying. And here's our first of many new weapons. It's a freeze gun that can also stun enemies. Oh, the blood is pooling up from the ceiling. That's always a good sign. Can we actually use it here to freeze this? I don't think we can. We got the guard key, which means, of course, we now have to head all the way back. But this is the first of many of the new weapons. But yeah, these guys have such an annoying way of tracking. That should be it. Or not. There you go. You're frozen. And you notice that our weapon is actually roaring there. Oh. But this is an effective 1-2 punch. Freeze and then ecto. And of course, pick up more health, because we're not going to be getting it any other way. I think that should be it. And at this point, we would have to go back to the garden. Oh, that was a nice shot. And then we'll be back to fighting those annoying howlers. Oh, look, double the health. But I'm going to head back to the main menu. We're going to discuss some of the final points about Clive Barker's Undying, and then we'll wrap things up. And apparently I just hurt myself with my own weapon there. That's always fun. So, we'll talk again in a second, hopefully, if I don't die. Alright, so let's wrap up the Dissecting Design this week. When it comes to Clive Barker's Undying, it was a pretty good game for its time. And despite the pacing and balance issues into the latter half of the game, it did sell reasonably well. There were plans to do more with it, but I believe it just didn't sell well enough. Clive Barker did have the chance to work on another game, I believe it was called Jericho, which unfortunately just was nowhere near as good as this one, and I think it kind of like killed his involvement in the video game industry. Now, with Clive Barker's Undying, as we've seen over the course of this video, it's a great example of kind of that transition of what would become of the first-person genre. Where traditionally it would just be pure run and gun, this game started adding the horror elements to it. And while it couldn't preserve it all the way through, the very unique story and at the time good graphics helped the game to stand out. In terms of story, one part that we didn't see but I want to touch on is that in order to get your ultimate weapon, the scythe, the quest line involves you having to travel back in time, fighting the keepers of the scythe, and then returning to modern time to then use it against these creatures. And for those of you who've played this, let me know what you think about it. Like I said, for a lot of fans, they felt that the first half of the game was just superior to the latter half. And it just has me thinking, did they run out of time or something near the end of the game? Because you really do see the difference. The first quarter to the half of this game, it's very open and wide in terms of the levels. As you saw, they do require you to backtrack a lot and look around for secrets. Once we get to the pirate brother and then the plant lady sister fights, or those areas, they become very, very linear, to the point that it almost feels like a completely different game. And then, of course, the final boss fight. Speaking of which, I'm going to spoil things here very quickly for the ending, but one thing that I didn't like about the game is that it's kind of revealed that Jeremiah, the guy we saw at the beginning, is kind of responsible for all of this, in that he was always evil. And I kind of felt that was a cop-out. I thought it would have been a lot more interesting for it to be similar to actually like the Hellraiser series, where the people are good until they get transformed into Cenobites. And I thought that would have been a lot more of an interesting twist here, rather than just him saying, oh, I was just evil this whole time. But that's going to do it for this week's Dissecting Design. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new, be sure to like and subscribe, with new Dissecting Designs coming each Monday. Like I said, to wrap up our Halloween look, next week we'll have a bit of a treat. But until then, have a great week. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check back around 10 Eastern for regular streaming. If you'd like to suggest games for me to cover or topics to talk about, let me know in the comments below. For a collection of my writings as well as weekly podcasts on design, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the Game Wisdom Patreon, you can find us on there on patreon.com/gwblazer. $1 will get you into our private Discord channel where we talk game topics and more. $5 will get you voting privileges for any major event, including the Saturday Night Grab Bag, Patreon-funded goals, and more. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoy more videos here on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel.